urge, urge. Recall, recall. Intuition, intuition. Recognize, recognize. Rational, rational. Obsessed, obsessed. Rage, rage. Vulnerable, vulnerable. Solitary, solitary. Compassion, compassion. Envision, envision. Invaluable, invaluable. Loyalty, loyalty. Tempt, tempt. Concerned, concerned. Skeptical, skeptical. Aggressive, aggressive. Surge, surge. Superstitious, superstitious. Commitment, commitment. Introspective, introspective. Unconsciousness, unconsciousness. Straightforward, straightforward. Outlet, outlet. Therapeutic, therapeutic. Extrinsic, extrinsic. Destin, destin. Inflict, inflict. Compulsive, compulsive. Drive, drive. Repress, repress. Illicit, illicit. Fallacy, fallacy. Initiation, initiation. Consistency, consistency. Presumably, presumably. Induce, induce. Compelling, compelling. Vigor, vigor. In vain, in vain.
Nurture, nurture. Mentor, mentor. Reform, reform. Range, range. Reference, reference. Assign, assign. Curriculum, curriculum. Capacity, capacity. Reward, reward. Instruction, instruction. Strive, strive. Persuasive, persuasive. Prestigious, prestigious. Explore, explore. Portray, portray. Diversity, diversity. Suppress, suppress. Gauge, gauge. Withhold, withhold. Norm, norm. Undergraduate, undergraduate. Complementary, complementary. Adolescent, adolescent. Intensive, intensive. Potential, potential. Rear, rear. Well-rounded, well-rounded. Remedial, remedial. Dominate, dominate. Endow, endow. Academic, academic. Be bound to, be bound to. Affection, affection. Integral, integral. Observation, observation. Coherent, coherent. Deliberately, deliberately. Rigorous, rigorous. At the expense of, at the expense of. Indispensable, indispensable.
Deduce, deduce. Preacher, preacher. Secular, secular. Alter, alter. profane, profane, monastery, monastery, pilgrim, pilgrim, spiritual, spiritual, divine, divine, temporal, temporal, sacred, sacred, profound, profound, prophet, prophet, persecution, persecution, oppressive, oppressive, self-interest, self-interest, vicious, vicious, demoralize, demoralize, worship, worship, analogy, analogy, humanism, humanism, philosopher, philosopher, proposition, proposition, ritual, ritual, contemplate, contemplate, virtue, virtue, solitude, solitude, empirical, empirical, permanent, permanent, temple, temple, conscious, conscious, intelligible, intelligible, unquestionable, unquestionable, contempt, contempt, take a stand, take a stand, intrinsically, intrinsically, intellectual, intellectual, abortion, abortion, doctrine, doctrine, motivate, motivate,
ruin, ruin, downfall, downfall, hierarchy, hierarchy, enlightenment, enlightenment, regime, regime, noble, noble, imperialism, imperialism, description, description, ancestor, ancestor, overtake, overtake, artifact, artifact, remains, remains, well preserved, well preserved, innovate, innovate, era, era, alliance, alliance, inscribe, inscribe, proclaim, proclaim, milestone, milestone, tendency, tendency, combat, 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 brutal, brutal, subordinate, subordinate, conquer, conquer, liberate, liberate, rebel, rebel, turmoil, turmoil, loom, loom, groundbreaking, groundbreaking, prehistoric, prehistoric, slavery, slavery, collapse, collapse, revolution, revolution, valiant, valiant, massacre, massacre, cemetery, cemetery, aftermath, aftermath, ally, ally, medieval, medieval, troop, troop,
imaginative, imaginative, patron, patron, improvisation, improvisation, aesthetic, aesthetic, naive, naive, complement, complement, splendid, splendid. Craftsman, craftsman. Gracious, gracious. Up to date, up to date. Emblem, emblem. Well crafted, well crafted. Distortion, distortion. Artifice, artifice. Twisted, twisted. Inspiration, inspiration. Masterpiece, masterpiece. Underappreciate, underappreciate. Adorn, adorn. Priceless, priceless. Brushwork, brushwork. Immediacy, immediacy. Propel, propel. Note, note. State of the art, state of the art. Contemporary, contemporary. Compose, compose. Statue, statue. Replica, replica. Geometrical, geometrical. Invisibility, invisibility. Criticize, criticize. Marble, marble. Treasury, treasury. Convey, convey. Inborn, inborn. Cast, cast. Repertoire, repertoire. Counterfeit, counterfeit. Grotesque, grotesque.
Linguistic, linguistic. Verbal, verbal. Clarify, clarify. Translate, translate. Articulate, articulate. Oversimplify, oversimplify. Revise, revise. Interpret, interpret. Define, define. Interpose, interpose. Exaggerate, exaggerate. Affirmation, affirmation. Eloquent, eloquent. Fluency, fluency. Relevance, relevance. Commonplace, commonplace. Synonym, synonym. Term, term. Punctuation, punctuation. Pitch, pitch. Premise, premise. Phrase, phrase. Omit, omit. Literal, literal. Bilingual, bilingual. Utter, utter. Dialect, dialect. Illiteracy, illiteracy. Controversial, controversial. Ambiguous, ambiguous. Plausible, plausible. Sophisticated, sophisticated. Vague, vague. Polished, polished. Reconstruct, reconstruct. Confer, confer. Narrative, narrative. Consistent, consistent. Evoke, evoke. Derive, derive.
Character, character. Feature, feature. Clue, clue. Literary, literary. Anecdote, anecdote. Dramatic, dramatic. Comprehensive, comprehensive. Context, context. Significance, significance. Detailed, detailed. competent, competent. Remarkable, remarkable. Prolific, prolific. Manuscript, manuscript. Verse, verse. Chronological, chronological. Delicacy, delicacy. Anonymous, anonymous. Depict, depict. Evaluate, evaluate. Referent, referent. Reasoning, reasoning. Embed, embed. Explicit, explicit. Orally, orally. Distinguished, distinguished. Rhetoric, rhetoric. Metaphorical, metaphorical. Adept, adept. Adept, adept. Proverbial, proverbial. Extraordinary, extraordinary. Acclaim, acclaim. Cherish, cherish. Spectator, spectator. Fictional, fictional. Inevitable, inevitable. Abruptly, abruptly. Everlasting, everlasting. Linger, linger. Immensity, immensity.
Bureaucracy, bureaucracy. Appoint, appoint. Presidency, presidency. Diplomatic, diplomatic. Council, council. Minister, minister. Policy, policy. Civilian, civilian. Republican, republican. Autonomy, autonomy. Opponent, opponent. Candidate, candidate. Nominate, nominate. Congress, Congress. Committee, committee. Refugee, refugee. Immigrant, immigrant. Racial segregation, racial segregation. Absentee ballot, absentee ballot. Standpoint, standpoint. Ponder, ponder. Notion, notion. Mandate, mandate. Ensure, ensure. Impulsive, impulsive. Retain, retain. Entail, entail. Theoretically, theoretically. Parliament, parliament. Monarchy, monarchy. Predominant, predominant. Federal, federal. Patriotic, patriotic. Volatile, volatile. Arbitrary, arbitrary. Bias, bias. Spark, spark. Authorize, authorize. Collectivized, collectivized. Stream, stream.
Jury, jury. Illegal, illegal. Advocate, advocate. Petition, petition. Defendant, defendant. Prosecution, prosecution. Victim, victim. Accuse, accuse. Violation, violation. Legitimate, legitimate. Sue, sue. Agitate, agitate. Enact, enact, alleged, alleged, causality, causality, enforce, enforce, abolition, abolition, convict, convict, property right, property right, validity, validity, restrictive, restrictive, torture, torture, amendment, amendment, consent, consent, conflicting, conflicting, legislation, legislation, contradict, contradict, regulate, regulate, assault, assault, exclude, exclude, specify, specify, assert, assert, disturbance, disturbance, exemplify, exemplify, in favor of, patent, patent, confidentiality, confidentiality, priority, priority, constitute, constitute, conclusive, conclusive,
accumulate, accumulate, loan, loan, estimate, estimate, revenue, revenue, financing, financing, merchant, merchant, subsidy, subsidy, monetary, monetary, asset, asset, institution, institution, deficit, deficit, transaction, transaction, sufficient, sufficient, impose, impose, insurance, insurance, warranty, warranty, sustainable, sustainable, fluctuation, fluctuation, allot, allot, launch, launch, incentive, incentive, morale, morale, demanding, demanding, equivalent, equivalent, corporate, corporate, alter, alter, bankruptcy, bankruptcy, pension, pension, tariff, tariff, contract, 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 enhance, enhance, gross, gross, negotiate, negotiate, wage, wage, authority, authority, agenda, agenda, affiliate, affiliate, adhere to, withdraw, withdraw, soar, soar,